Okay, we have about 1 minute to go before we go live. Sunday after Thanksgiving, day before Cyber Monday. You need to know what's going on to be able to face a full 5-day week. Wow. I like the 4-day weeks. I like the 3-day weeks. They're even better, but now we got to face a 5-day week. So it's you and me tonight on Truth Frequency Radio Network, the America Free Radio Show. Okay, let's go ahead and bring the studio in and see what's up. Oh, well, that's cool. So we have no bumper music tonight. That's okay. Now we're going to see if we can dial up the call board so we can have you all here today. That is really going slow. Let's try dialing it, see if it gets us into the call board.
You must unite what has been set aside.
We are TFR, Truth Frequency Radio.
Here we go, hour one. And greetings, Earth Explorers. Welcome to X Squared Radio. I'm your host, Brooks Agnew, coming to you live from an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains.
This is where the past meets the future. And here the results are always positive. We might go a little past your imagination, but have no fear.
Okay.
You'll be safely traveling with us. We have a lot of stories to go over tonight, so pay close attention. We are streaming live through the Truth Frequency Radio Network.
Yes, I guess we are, but I really don't know why it's playing and recording. Hang on, folks. Just hang on.
Live on Foxhole, Twitch, Facebook, DLive, Twitter, YouTube, and Rumble. So you can tune in on all of those as well. Hopefully all of our streams are working well. Foxhole looks like it's spinning just a little bit. I'm not really sure what's going on there.
I'm not really sure what's going on here. Hold on a second.
Let's see here if we can get that to behave itself. DLive looks like it's spinning as well. I don't know what's going on there, but we will do our best.
Okay, we have to hang up from Truth Frequency Radio Network because they are not with us tonight. Something is wrong at the studio. Obviously playing an old program. That's okay. We're live, even if they're not. So it's okay. Everything is under control here. At America Free Radio, we're coming to you live from an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains. And this is where the past meets the future. Yeah, okay. Looks like everything's coming together now. Making sure Foxhole looks good, DLive looks good. Checking the chat room really quick just to see. Yes. Yeah, that's great. That is interesting. What's going on here? Why is even the Restream chat room is showing last Wednesday's chat? That's all right. We'll just continue. We'll just add on to last week's chat. Everything's doing fine. Everyone's out there, right? Yes, chat? Everything's going well? Good. Let's get started because we have a lot of news to go over. Okay. I'm going to talk about World War D. Oh, no, you've heard about World War I, II, World War Z. No. This is World War D. And what does that mean to you when I say the world is at war? I mean, we've been talking about it for a while, right? Yes, there's a Revolutionary War, there's resistance, there's a war on women, there's a war on kids. Well, it's a little more substantive than World War debt. That's what the D stands for. You know, I owe you $20, you owe me $20, and so we are all in debt, right? Picture 8 men playing cards at 2 tables. For hours and days, the games continue. But the moment arrives when not one of these stoic men of chance ante up. They can't ante up. All the money's gone. And you would expect with all that betting and all that bluffing and all the chips would be in front of 1 or 2 men, right? I mean, the final round with 2 guys facing off in front of the cameras, right? But no, there's no money. The house has been skimming after each hand. And slowly, the only entity that took no chances and did not bet a single hand now holds all the chips. That is the Global Syndicate. Okay? They have used every living soul on this planet to make themselves all powerful. They own the water. They own the gas. They own the very electrons that flow into your lives. And they can turn you off at any moment. The only force that can stop them isn't going anywhere. There's massive inflation, huge defaults of debt in China, a badly broken supply chain, and a hostile government against we, the people, here in America. It sure looks like the end of the system is near, doesn't it? But it has never been more powerful, I can assure you. The syndicate has nearly conquered the United States because they very nearly have overthrown our constitutional form of government. Virtual Joe is the perfect president for them. I warned that this election had nothing to do with Trump versus Biden. I told you that, right? I told you that not Trump would win this election because the global media empire would ghost President Trump. And that's exactly what they did. The rallies and the tweets and the public appearances only existed to the 80 million people who voted for him. But it did not matter because Trump was running against a foreign entity that was trying to take over the United States. And they had printing presses and the identities of tens of millions of voters so they could create counterfeit ballots by the warehouse. They got their wish. They got somebody in there who really would not be able to figure out left from right. Any person who could see the plot to destroy America, they might have protested. They might have said, no, wait a moment. You can't do that. Even if just a little. But Virtual Joe is no longer self-aware. Jill only cares about the money and the servants. Heels Up Harris is just banking the cash for when she can make her getaway. You know, prostitutes never make good wives or first ladies. The agenda, the executive actions, and the bills are all crafted by syndicate think tanks. I call them tankers. Virtual Joe reads the index card, and then they hook him off the stage before he shits his pants again, right? The most favorable polls have him nearing the high 20s range. A politician would normally care about that, but he is a syndicate puppet with just enough gray matter to keep his heart and lungs working, and not much else. Can't even control his own sphincter. You know, he's just a placeholder, right? They're just moving their agenda through. Period. Comma. Period. The United States is being orchestrated from Geneva. All this Build Back Better stuff was a slogan created at Davos. The United States is under attack from a foreign entity. You know that, and I know that. Do they care that COVID is not the bioweapon they expected from the fascists? No. Well, okay, a little. They're trying to make up for it with their bank of selective chemical weapons. The delivery systems are absolutely ingenious. Nurses shoot it directly into the target. The target stands still for it because they realize that they very soon will not be able to travel. They won't be able to purchase a home. They won't be able to receive their Social Security or go to college without the jab. The Global Syndicate is trying to create another Great Depression. Why? Why would they do that? Because the middle class is too stubborn to surrender, that's why. We may not be able to get a job, but we can create a job. We know what an entrepreneur is. We can form our own airlines. We can open our own restaurants. We can have our own farms and our own grocery chains. We can make clothes and internal combustion engines and even our own fuel. Thank you very much. So we have to be stopped. And very soon we will create our own currency. And we will not let the syndicate banks trade with it. The new reset that you all are so excited about is nothing more than a debt transfer plan. They transfer the global debt, which is in the hundreds of trillions of dollars, if you think about all the derivatives, to you. The next 10 generations will be slaves to that system. They pretend they care about you. Oh, you won't own anything, their ads say. We're going to eliminate all mortgages, all credit card debt, and you are going to be happy, they say. Why? Why would you be happy with that? Because that's the cover for them to default. They can't default without wiping out everybody's pension fund. They want your 401ks and your IRAs and the equity in your homes and your lands. They want the seeds and the minerals in the ground. They want your forests and lakes and the very oceans you sail. The ultra wealthy are doing the same thing today that they did prior to the last Great Depression. They're buying tangible assets, gold, silver, houses, lands, ships, planes, to get their money off the grid. And the little guy should be doing exactly the same thing if you can. I mean, gold is still like $23 an ounce. You can do it. And this is why we say things like art and collectibles, Bitcoin, silver, gold. They're going up, and they're going to continue to do so because that's where the money's going. You be very careful with cryptocurrencies because eventually governments will have their own cryptocurrencies and they're not going to allow any competition. You know, a lot of conservatives wrongly assume that the political left has some kind of autonomous force within our culture that has the power to influence massive government and corporate interests, bending these interests to their own will. They don't really. That is what the global media empire wants you to believe, but it is all fake. These groups do not think for themselves. The Global Syndicate has direct, high-level influence and control over the political left. The zombies that you see in the streets are tools of the globalist system. And they're not some grassroots movement sticking it to the patriarchy. No, they're really zombies. And there's a symptom they all have. You could see it. It's very clear. Their necks bulge out and their eyes are bloodshot, and you can see the whites all around them like atoms shift for brains. They scream short, meaningless chants, and they will run straight into gunfire without fear. We've already seen it on film. We've seen it. They are impervious to tear gas, and they have uncontrollable erections at the sight of blood. They're all slaves on the Global Syndicate's plantation. So where do the leftists of the social justice cult actually derive their power from? Is it the pervasive threat of mob violence? You really think so? No, it isn't. You ask yourself, when was the last time you saw an organized police presence and riot response to leftist mobs looting and burning down cities? Okay, I'm not counting Ferguson. After they figured it out. In almost every case, the police are told to stand down. Okay? By city and state officials. Official message, stand down. They're told to do nothing. I have seen actual riot control used against actual peaceful protesters at events like the G20. It isn't pretty. When cops actually want to control and disperse the crowd, they have a lot of weapons in their arsenal to make that happen. The truth reveals that the leftist riots continue for several days at a time exactly because they're permitted. It's allowed. It's sanctioned by the government. When they do get arrested for their activities, they're usually released without charge, right? You've seen it, right? So what about the prevalence of cancel culture and the global media empire's use of online mob bots? I call them mob bots. Some people call them bot mobs. And news actors, right? To discredit or deplatform people that the leftists don't like. This has been working less and less because the rest of the public has been made aware of the tactic through the tireless efforts of America Free Radio's Voice of the Revolution, right here, because we are the voice of the revolution. But for around 4 years, the leftists had free reign to destroy the lives and careers of anyone they pleased. I mean, just look at actress, what's her name, Gina Carano, right? From The Mandalorian, you know, or Virginia police officer William Kelly, prime examples of the cancel culture in action. The problem is that leftists would have no power to cancel anybody without the global media empire, which, as you know, consists of 6 rich white guys and 3 tech puppet monopolies. These companies don't actually care what social justice warriors think, and they're certainly not afraid of America Free Radio with zero consumer leverage, right? We don't reach anywhere. You can, but we can't. We just put the word out. You share it or don't share it. We have no control over that whatsoever. And yet, there are the base of control that allow the leftists to wield legitimate tools for deconstructing people's lives. The corporate world aids the leftists because leftist goals serve corporate interests. Well, for now. It's not going to be that way forever. Pretty soon the Global Syndicate's going to betray them. It's going to start taking everything they have. Oh, and then they'll protest. And what about government, like overall? I mean, I hate to even use the word government, because there really isn't one government. There are several governments inside our government. There are the agencies, departments, bureaus, and administrations, which actually compete against one another for the same money, but they spend it all. They're the ones that assess the taxes and put the police actions together to take your stuff. They're the ones that charge you the fees and assess the fines against you, right? That government, that's not an elected government. You have no representation in that government. You know, I remember back in 2017, and I warned people that we had only won a battle. We really hadn't won the war. Yes, Trump won the election. It was a great day. I mean, the rallies were bigger and better and stronger, and nobody gave up. Everyone was excited to be an American. But that was just the battle. I told you, they don't surrender. They don't give up. I warned you that the Global Syndicate doesn't give up, and they would not go away. They're going to be back. I told you Trump would never put any of them in jail, like he said during the debate. And he didn't. He didn't. He let them all go, just like God let Cain go. And we all lived to pay the price for that one. Well, they did strike back. And they struck back in the weakest precincts where we had no voice at all. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Okay? I told you the Obama force behind Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar was crafting future successors of the party, and that soldiers like them would dictate the Democrat platform. And many people said I was nuts. I was crazy. There was no way this crazy bitch would be able to swing Congress around her little finger. But she did. They have won second terms, too, easily. Now they get publicly funded pensions, and they're building net worth through the Clinton School of Self-Enrichment. Nothing can touch them. Nothing. Virtual Joe and his gang of criminals spout off about white supremacy and social justice about every 5 minutes, right? The party has become exactly what it was always intended to become, which was a vehicle for communist subversion. It's been going that way for 50 years. Regular Democrats, moderates, might not agree with this kind of extreme ideological zealotry, but most of them keep their mouths shut because they're fearful of their own party. They're fearful of being labeled heretics and cast out, that they won't be invited to the orgies or the parties. Many say they support the cause just to avoid standing out from the herd because they love the swag at the Oscars and the Emmys. Being called a bigot or a misogynist or racist only works on people that actually care and think those words have meaning, right? That is to say, most social justice control mechanisms are designed to entrap other leftists, right? They don't work on normal people. They don't work on free-thinking conservatives because we know who we are. Leftist activists wouldn't have any political influence at all without the avid support of leaders within the Democrat Party. The politicians give leftists the teeth they used to bite the ankles of their opponents. Let's put it that way. So the Global Syndicate has been around for thousands of years. And it's the oaths and the covenants that link the officers directly to Lucifer. They killed Christ. They declared wars. They designed the Fed, and they will kill everyone who gets in their way. They designed the weapons that evil men use to kill billions. And where did the leftist group get all the funding to launch organizations like Black Lives Matter? Where did the more than $2.5 billion go that they raised while Trump was president? How do programs like social justice and critical racist theory find their way into college academia and all the way down to the public school system? What is the source for the cultural Marxism, and how did it become so pervasive in the first place? Well, globalist foundations like Ford Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation, Tavistock Institute, George Soros Open Society Foundation are usually the source of the seed money and often the curriculum for most leftist movements. For example, Open Society and Ford Foundation partner with Borealis Philanthropy, were key in the creation of Black Lives Matter. They funneled hundreds of millions of dollars into the movement in the early days. That's what it takes to get that kind of marketing going, to sponsor those people to go out and threaten the lives of police right in their face. Ford Foundation, Open Society, they're pumping hundreds of millions of dollars into these groups. And of course, university indoctrination has been going on for 2 generations. By extension, the globalist institutions and international corporations have invested around, not millions. How would you think if I told you $50 billion? $50 billion in the development of social justice programs. Yeah. Well, how many people would $50 billion feed? A lot. It would feed a lot of people. But these corporations implement indoctrination courses for their employees, and they also spread social justice warrior propaganda to the public subconscious through commercials and popular media, textbooks, songs. This has actually been going on quite a long time, more subversive and secretive than it is now. Now it's just straight in your face. It was the globalist institutions that got this all going. Let's see, we had the donations to the feminist press, other organizations you haven't even heard of. And this is openly admitted by them. They don't care if you know. It's no coincidence that almost every facet and goal of leftist activism is also listed within the goals of the UN's Agenda 2030 initiative. We talked about that a lot on this program. A lot of people don't know what Agenda 2030 is, but it mixes some very nice sentiments about, equality and income equality and ending poverty and, morphs it into a disturbing mission statement about transforming the world through global inclusivity and sustainability, aggressive sustainability now, and racial and gender equality, right? And if you're not familiar with these buzzwords, you better be, because they represent an Orwellian program of social engineering which the UN is seeking to spearhead. You just ask your friends. If you don't get out there on social media much, you probably don't have a clue what I'm talking about. But just go ask your friends. Go ask your friends at the nursing home. Go ask your friends down at the skate park or at the next freshman basketball game. Because they will never speak outside their own groups. You got to go ask them. If you're supposed to be the underdogs and the revolutionaries, then why is it that all the evil money elites are on your side? Ask them that. Why are all the people you say you are fighting against giving you billions of dollars and enforcing your political will? Ask them that. Is it possible, do you think, maybe just possible, that corporatists, the globalists, the global media empire, the leftists are all part of the same machine? Think about it. The relationship between the syndicate's agenda and the agenda of the political left, it is exploding. It is totally in your face. If that's the one thing that President Donald Trump did, somebody was talking the other day to me about the last president, and they said, I think he did some good things, but he just divided the country. this is my friend, so I don't want to get mad at him. And I said, well, actually, the country's been divided for a long, long time. They've just been divided and scattered. What Donald Trump did, he didn't divide the country. He gathered the country. He gathered conservatives together under his wing, under his voice. He said a word that made us all look up from the plow, look up from the grindstone and the shovel just for a moment. And that word was wall. And when he said that word, it woke us up. We went, what? What do you mean wall? You mean an American southern border wall? What a great idea. Who in the hell ever said that in public? And you just did it. And what happened was he started to gather the patriots together. That wasn't dividing the country. That was uniting all those who were patriotic. The syndicate wants to dismantle traditional Western values. And so do the leftists. That's why they're aligned. The syndicate wants to dictate economic growth through carbon controls and climate change bullshit. And so do the leftists. That's why they are united. The syndicate promotes a decidedly communistic approach to private property and economy, arguing in favor of the sharing economy, universal basic income, and a world in which we own nothing and we are happy. Leftists, they want the same thing. That's why they're united. You got to ask yourself, ask your friends, who will own it? They will own it. You will essentially become homeless by force. Of course, the leaders of the syndicate will continue to keep their wealth and their influence, and the rest of us are going to be made equal, right, to the equality of poverty. But let's not dwell on that. Let's think. Let's be positive, Brooks. Let's be positive. What I see moving forward for 2022, and we're coming up on it like a freight train, is that the left is becoming the Cheka, or the political commissars of the globalist Great Reset. And so help me God, if you people come up to me at another conference and say that you're so excited for the economic reset. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know why you're buying into this crap. They have been indoctrinated and infected with the zombie blood for decades for this role, and their purpose is to provide an element of social force and the illusion of consensus. The interesting thing about this strategy is that it seeks to exploit people who feel as though they are oppressed somehow by the existing system, or that they have been taught to feel oppressed. As with any Marxist takeover, read your history, people. Read your history. The syndicate uses the have-nots as a battering ram and a shield while they grab more power. It's their bodies that bridge the moat and get smashed against the castle walls. It's their children's bodies that provide the organs to extend their lives, and it's their terrified blood that makes the adrenochrome that smooths their skin and fuels their orgies. Every time any conservative criticizes the lies and the manipulation of the Black Lives Matter movement, for instance, we are accused of racism. And this is the big trick. We all know that BLM was founded by Marxists. It has nothing to do with civil rights or racial justice. Black lives are not the issue with them. Globalism, communism, that's the issue. Social justice and leftist movements are a smokescreen for the bigger agenda. Wake up. So why did they do this? It's a mistake to assume that they're just useful idiots. Okay? Don't think that they're incompetent. that's an easy one to fall for. They are narcissists. They are psychopaths. They're degenerates. They're lazy, spoiled, and they're weak. They are people that are generally not capable of surviving independently, and you know what? They know it. So they seek out collectivist frameworks to join and to feed off of. They want you to think like a mob. That's why they use the word collective. You are not a collective. You are a collection of sovereign souls. Big difference. It is important to understand this dynamic going forward because, I've made this plain for you to see that the syndicate is conquering America through the Grand Division. That's why I wrote the book, The Grand Division. In truth, we are already divided, and we have been for a long time. Billions of us chose a side many years ago. President Trump did not divide us, okay? He gathered us. He called us out, and we heard his voice. We formed a massive force as one because we are unified once again. And the syndicate knows they cannot defeat us as long as we stand together. Do we have a central leader now? No. That's the entire point. When they killed Jesus, they thought they won, didn't they? They thought no one would mention his name within a year. There was no social media in those days. There was no media at all. They were wrong. The real power is not in the leader. The real power is in the people. We are many, and we are free, and we stand with one voice, not with one man. We are the truth that is called America. You and me. So don't get all your hopes up that President Donald Trump's going to run again in 2024. We're going to magically hand over the keys of the kingdom to him again. You don't see it. Maybe you don't see it because you're blinded by the prospect. But President Donald Trump's getting old. I can hear it in his voice. I can see it in his face when he speaks. I can see his mental processes. He's not as sharp as he was 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. The presidency takes a lot out of a man. And just because he was the originator, he was the one that pulled us together, he was the one that lit the torch, it doesn't mean he has to be the one to carry it forward. We can all light our torches off that torch. Thank you, President Donald Trump. But the world is not lost without you. We would have been lost without you in 2016. But in 2024, there will be another. You mark my words. Because the last thing in the world we ever want to see is President Donald Trump fail in office. It isn't going to happen. If you haven't read Charm a Favor, let me just put the book ads up there so you can see it, so you know what I'm talking about. Charm a Favor was a #1 bestseller on Amazon. It has been in the top 200 for a long time. It is a hell of a book, and it needs to be a movie. And yes, I am working on the sequel. And in fact, I was writing on chapter 11 this weekend, and it's looking pretty good. But it's more than just a novel. There are predictions in this book. It lays things out in the future a little bit. And you'll recall, if you've read the book, an elaborate nuclear bomb plot that wound its way through the book. Well, it was right. The United States Department of Commerce put 16 Chinese entities on a concern list for helping Pakistan with its nuclear ambitions. That's what they said 2 days ago. It's in the book. The agency's Bureau of Industry and Security added a total of 27 entities that they said engaged in activities that are contrary to the national security or foreign policy interests of the United States. 16 of those included in the list were Chinese entities that the agency said were aiding Pakistan's unsafeguarded nuclear activities and ballistic missile program efforts. Because Pakistan is one of the 9 countries that is nuclear capable. Global trade and commerce is supposed to support peace, supposed to support prosperity, supposed to generate good paying jobs in all countries, not national security risks, right? Well, today's actions, they say, will help prevent the diversion of U.S. technologies to the PRCs and Russia's military advancement and activities on non-proliferation concerns like Pakistan's unsafeguarded nuclear activities or ballistic missile program. What are unsafeguarded nuclear activities? Well, in the book, Pakistan, which as you know has kind of a safe haven for terrorists around the world, they're able to funnel technology, their nuclear technology, wherever they want to. And they're not the wealthiest country in the world. They have money, yes, but they can always use more. And there are countries with lots of money that are willing to assist in the effort to take that nuclear technology, that unsafeguarded nuclear technology, sneak it into the United States and blow it up, which is what they did in the book Charm of Favor. Foreign companies that are placed on this list include the Moscow Institute of Physics for making military products for a military end user. China has a company called Corad Technology Limited. You're going to hear this name. I'm just telling you now so that you're up on it. When you hear it, you say, oh, I heard that on America Free Radio. They sell technology that they stole from us and Western nations, and they sell it to Iran's military and space programs. And also North Korean front companies, as well as Chinese government and defense industry subordinates. But we have a lot of spies in the Chinese government. We don't have very many spies in North Korea. That's why North Korea was involved in the plot to blow up this bomb inside the United States. We don't have a lot of spies in Pakistan. The Mossad does, but we do not. We do not. And yes, we have a lot of spies in Russia, but I have said once, and I will say it again, that Russia is basically a gas station posing as a country. They just don't want to be taken by surprise. They're not afraid to come to the dance, but they're not into global war. So according to this agency, being on the list prohibits foreign parties from items unless the exporter gets a license because they represent a greater risk of diverting weapons of mass destruction programs or terrorist organizations. Now, Hangzhou Zhongke Microelectronics Company Limited, Hunan Goke Microelectronics, New H3C Semiconductor Technologies Company Limited, and Xiang Aerospace Huaxun Technology and Yunchip Microelectronics were also placed on the Commerce Department's entity list for their support of the military modernization of the People's Liberation Army. As you know, these are some of the biggest semiconductor technology producers in the world. They're not American companies. They're not like Apple making iPhones or computers. They're not, IBM making components. They're not Dell. These are chip companies that make chips for other kinds of equipment, robotics, aeronautics, stuff like that. Now, while these companies can apply for an exemption license for these entities, the agency said such applications are reviewed with the presumption of denial. It doesn't matter. Chips are very easy to smuggle. And military end user informs the public of certain parties in Russia, China, Venezuela, Burma that the U.S. has determined to be military end users according to the agency. Yes, we have been. And some of the drones and some of the stealth technology that we have built has used that technology that the Chinese manufactured. And that's why, for instance, the RU-186, I think it was, or was it RQ? Maybe it was RQ-186. Anyway, it was a stealth drone that was flying during the Obama administration. Very cool looking craft. And we were flying it over Iranian airspace, I guess during the day. Somebody spotted it anyway. And they didn't shoot it down. What they did is they used the firmware backdoors in the chips that were used to make it. And they simply took control of it with a joystick remotely and flew it to the ground and landed it. And they reverse engineered it. And even though Obama said, please give us our drone back, they just laughed at him and said, thank you very much. So when we say that the U.S. is determined to be military end users, that's what we mean. These chips aren't made anywhere else. And that's what Trump was trying to fix. That's why he had Foxconn coming to Wisconsin. He wanted a chip maker inside the United States. I don't know if that ever happened, by the way. I think they just said, yeah, we'll come. And then he didn't get a second term, and so now they're not doing it. I don't think there are any big-scale chip makers in the United States. There are chip makers. There are prototype houses, and they can do limited production, and they can do some pretty fancy stuff, like, flexible circuits that have a 10-degree radius that they can bend. That's a lot. And they can make 6-layer deep flexible circuit boards. This is really spectacular technology, but not in large quantities. I guess it really doesn't matter if you're just making 1 or 20 or 21. But China is the big maker of the chips, and that is Obama's fault because he exported all that technology. What's going on in Africa? I know everybody's asking me that. Because for the last, 3 months or so, my electric vehicle company has been courted by several South African entities. Some of them just want to license our patented technology, and some of them actually want to manufacture the Condor, which is the lightest, most affordable, safest electric pickup truck ever built. And we're interested. We're not interested in doing business with South Africa. But it takes a long time to put together a face-to-face meeting where they get to come over and drive our trucks and get the wow factor. Because we do have a device that holds you in the seat. It's called the engine. Yeah, it does a really good job. Anyway, guess what? Yeah. It's kind of nuts. I got to tell you this story, and then you'll understand why this is so crazy. You will recall how pissed off the bioweapon marketing teams were when they looked at the data recently. Now, they're not particularly pleased, no. Because the one country they really wanted to make a good showing, they really wanted their weapons to be effective, and weren't interested. It's true. Africa does not watch much CNN, and they never bought into the whole bioweapon craze. There were no cases because nobody bothered to get tested. The normal amount of flu and death occurred just like everywhere else, but the news got out that Africa mysteriously didn't have any COVID deaths. And that just won't do. It just won't do. So they created a new product. And guess where they say it is doing very well? Well, yesterday, the World Health Organization labeled the SARS-CoV-2 variant B1.1529 as a variant of concern, and they officially named it Omicron. So freaking predictable. So completely meaningless. Because the variants, they're just tools to stretch the story out and keep people on their toes, right? If you want to know exactly how Omicron came to be the latest African fad, you got to pay close attention to the fascist marketing plan. Listen close, because tomorrow this is going to take off like nothing you ever saw. And you're going to say, wait a minute, I know all about that because I heard about it on America Free Radio. The voice of the revolution told me all about this. The Omicron variant is more transmissible, but they have no clue if it's more dangerous. You know how hard it is to get accurate records out of Africa? It's impossible. If it originated in Africa, possibly mutating in untreated AIDS patients. Oh, by the way, that's another fascist product that sold very well in Africa. Omicron has more than doubled the mutations of Delta. Scientists anticipate that the virus will be more likely to infect or reinfect people who have immunity to earlier variants. More top-selling boosters on the way. Scientists are concerned that the current vaccines, they may not be as effective against the new strain. They may need to be tweaked. 4 out of 5 dentists recommend it. Scientists expect that recently approved antiviral drugs, such as Merck's pill, will work effectively against the new variant. The truth is that ivermectin is very effective against all variants of coronavirus because of the nature of the spike proteins. You could get yours, and I'm going to show you how in just a minute. It's already spreading around the world, and travel bans may be needed to prevent the need for another lockdown. And this is leading to lockdown part 2. You're going to love it even more than the original, because this is the black version and not the Asian version. We're already seeing preparations for more public health measures, whatever the hell that means, with the press breathlessly quoting concerned public health officials. So concerned. We're being told that a new lockdown won't be necessary. Not yet. Not as long as we remember to get boosted and wear masks and blah, 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 freaking blah. Africa is by far the poorest continent on Earth. It is densely populated. It is flooded with malnourishment and extreme poverty. They're endemic across many African nations. And it is home to more AIDS patients than the entire rest of the world combined. If you are outside your home after 8 p.m. in South Africa, you will be arrested. And yet no COVID crisis. Nobody is sick. Nobody is dying. Man, the fascists are pissed. This is the one nation Gates worked so hard to eradicate. All indicators were that there should be no Africans left by now. Where are you, BLM? Where the hell are you? China was going to have a new continent to take over without firing a shot. Nope. Didn't happen. What a waste of bullets this is going to be. Last summer, in the UK's virus modeler-in-chief, his name is Neil Ferguson, he attempted to explain it by arguing that African nations have, on average, younger populations than the rest of the world. Why do you think that is? I mean, COVID's only a threat to the elderly, right? Why do you think that is? Well, see, 5 minutes of common sense will debunk this idea. The reason Africa has a younger population on average is that on average they are much sicker. The average life expectancy in Africa is at least a decade lower than Europe, and it's closer to 2.5 decades lower than Florida. There are diseases endemic to large parts of Africa that are all but wiped out in most of the Western world, right? When is the last time you heard a local case of cholera or typhus or yellow fever or tuberculosis or malaria? Never in your whole life, right? Access to clean water is almost unheard of in Africa because most of the people crap in the middle of the street and then they bathe in or drink from the local rivers. And while it has been nailed into the public mind that being elderly is the biggest risk factor for COVID, that is not really accurate. Not at all. I know lots of elderly people, believe me. The biggest factor for the risk of dying of COVID is and always has been already dying of something else. The truth is that the bioweapon designers wanted to cut a bloody swath across the entire continent of Africa, but it did not go as planned. Instead, last week, we're getting articles, and you're reading them and I'm reading them, about how Africa escaped COVID and the continent's low COVID deaths with only 6% of the people vaccinated. It's mystifying. It's baffling the fascists. Well, politically, African nations have shown themselves far less likely to buy into the pandemic narrative than their European, Asian, or American counterparts. At least two COVID-denying African presidents, Pierre Nkurunziza of Burundi and John Magufuli of Tanzania. You remember them? They were assassinated last year because they didn't believe in COVID and they didn't believe in the tests. They knew they were fake. And their successors immediately reversed their COVID policies. Even if Omicron doesn't kill a single person in Africa, and right now that's probably the way it's going to go, the new fascist marketing plan is already a huge success. Virtual Joe and his gang of criminals has already placed an embargo travel ban on Africa. They will soon be starving to death. Business people planning to travel to the U.S., like to visit my company right here in North Carolina, for licensing or manufacturing opportunities, they're now in prison in their own country. They can't get out. Of course, it's always true that being African is media shorthand for being scary, relying on the deeply seated xenophobia of Western audiences. Even if you are born in the USA, if you are black, you're African. Oh, you only thought Black Lives Mattered. Start focusing on the group that is really trying to make you become room temperature. The fascists are coming for you. So let's go back to the Guardian's Omicron bullet points I just mentioned above. Scientists are concerned by the number of mutations and the fact that some of them have already been linked to an ability to evade existing vaccine-created immune protection. Well, actually, the CDC says the vaccine has a 5% efficacy now, compared to 97.8% of the natural human immune system. And by the way, if you take ivermectin and hydrochloroquine, which are both NIH approved to be used against COVID, you're way better off. Scientists expect that recently approved antiviral drugs, such as Merck's pill, they're going to work against the new variant. Oh, yeah. If you won't take the jab, that's okay. That's no problem. We got this $80 pill you can take. Actually, ivermectin and HCQ are effective against all the variants of the coronavirus. This new variant, already being described as potentially resistant to the vaccines, but not to the new antiviral medications, or the old antiviral medications. The giants, Merck and Pfizer, yeah, they're working on COVID pills. Have you seen the capsules opened up? I just recently saw it. One of the Merck capsules, they grabbed it, they opened it, they dumped the powder out. It wasn't the powder they were interested in, that was the drug. They were interested in the capsule itself, in the gel capsule itself. You know those things that kind of float and they make it easy to swallow the powders inside? One of the things that they noticed is the darn thing was sensitive to a magnet. I was going to say magnetic, but that's not really true. You could take a magnet and you could pick it up. You could lead it around the table. So they dumped the powder out and they took a glass of warm water and just drop the capsule into it, the two halves of the capsule, and they allowed it to dissolve. And once it dissolved, they took the magnet over to the glass of water that has a supposed gel capsule dissolved in it, and they put the magnet against the side of the glass, and guess what happened? These lovely little black particles, they magically moved over and collected at the edge of the glass by the magnet. Yes, they were sensitive to the magnetic field. The capsule itself. Don't think you're going to get out of this. Don't think that they're going to let you out of this. If Omicron is found to be resistant to the vaccines but not the pills, that's going to give government an excuse to rush through approving the pills on another emergency use authorization, just as they did with the vaccines. And they're going to get the graphene oxide in you anyway. So you bet your ass the testing is going to be rapid. Oh, it's going to be super rapid. Blink and you'll miss it rapid. Rapid to the point you're not even sure it definitely happened. And now they have an excuse. I mean, let's face it, Earth explorers. Sales of the jab have really dropped off, haven't they? And besides, a tablet costs fractions to make, and you don't have to refrigerate it. Really, it's just all more of the same. All those who want to get the clot shot have got it. The rest are just not interested. And there's one potential silver lining here. It feels rushed. It feels frantic. They're losing. You know, I discovered on Tuesday, it was named on Friday, it was banned on Saturday. Oh, it's rushed. It's hurried. And maybe that's a reaction to feeling like the pandemic is losing its grip on the public mind, because it is. Hopefully, as the narrative becomes more and more absurd and more people wake up to the reality, things will change. I mean, do I really have to spell it out to you again? I really don't want to. But what I do want to do is I want to show you how you can get it, the cure, the FDA-approved cure, for yourself. Let's do that while we're here. Here we are. First of all, let me just check the chat room really quickly and just see what's going on. All right. Got my package a couple weeks back, just in time too. Started feeling kind of cruddy, so I took it for a couple days. Boom, killed it. That's what I'm talking about. I have gotten so much mail. Not all the mail's been good. I mean, all the people that got their orders, that's all been good mail. But in the early days, when I first started this effort up with this Japanese pharmacy, it was evident in about a month and a half, we were having some translation errors. I would make these Excel spreadsheets, send them to Japan. They put them in print format, and in that change, we missed some people. I apologize for that. Please write me. If it's been more than 4 weeks and you haven't got your stuff, please write me. Use the contact form on the website. It gets to me quicker. I will track it down. If we lost it, we will reship it. If it got lost in translation, don't worry about it. We'll ship it at our cost. If you're pissed off about it, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's not bad karma. It's just the way things work out sometimes. But I promise you, we're going to get your order to you. I promise you. You got my word. But let's go ahead and show you how you can get it, because it's important. Because it's cold and flu season, right? All right, here's my website. You could tell it's my website because it says right on it, I'm Brooks Agnew. That's me. That's my picture. I put my name and my face on my website. Yeah, okay. Just to make sure that you're not accepting any counterfeits. Right at the top, you will see a link that says store. See that? I'm hovering over it, and the store drop-down menu opens up. I'm going to click on the word that says store. And that is going to take you directly to my bookstore. Yes, you get all the mugs and the T-shirts and hats and books and things that I've produced. But about halfway down, right below the birth series, you're going to see this red bar. It says click the button below for an ivermectin special report. We're going to click on this special report. And by the way, a lot of people listen to this program and they do click on this, and they have gotten their report, and then they've told their friends about it who don't even listen to this program. And that's great. That's fantastic, because we're all about saving lives here. This page will come up. It's called Ivermectin Report. You'll know you're at the right place because on the left-hand side is a picture of the box, ivermectin tablets. 10 times 10. That means there's 10 of these aluminum packs that have 10 tablets sealed in each one. All FDA approved for human use. On the right-hand side, hydroxychloroquine, same thing. Aluminum packs, individual seal for freshness. You can buy them easily by actually buying the report from me. Now, the ivermectin report costs $70. You can buy it through Stripe, or you can buy it on PayPal. You can use Apple Pay on Stripe. It's very convenient for you. Same thing with the hydroxychloroquine, except it's $79 for the report. The report's going to come to you with your receipt, or you can access it from the website right there on Stripe. It comes to you directly if you buy PayPal because it downloads to you as a receipt. If you don't get the report, write me and I will email you the report because it's nice to have. Then I take all the money that you send me for the report and I send it to the pharmacy in Japan. I don't make any money on it. The pharmacy pays me nothing. I don't get any kickbacks from them, nothing, okay? The money goes to them and they ship directly to you. That is totally legal. It is completely legal to buy this medication without a prescription for your personal use. The federal statute is listed right in the report, okay? And if they're doing this in Canada, they're doing it illegally. They're seizing it illegally because in Canada, you can legally order 3 prescriptions per year. That's Canadian law. But there's some asshole in Montreal who has created a black market by stealing our shipments and selling them himself or using them himself. We're going to find out who he is. He's going to jail. I promise you that. He is going to jail because what he's doing is illegal. And there's bad karma comes with this, buddy. Bad karma. So this is it. And by the way, if you have any question, this is National Institute of Health approved ivermectin for the treatment of COVID-19. You can click right here and it will take you to their report called Table 2E. It's right on their website, not on my website. It takes you directly to the NIH website. So this is how you get it for yourself. All right, let's go back to the program because I need to talk about, well, I don't need to talk about this. I guess I would need to talk about it, but I want to talk about it. I want to talk about sex. Yeah, I want to talk about sex. I mean, in the past 10 years, according to researchers, Americans have had less and less sex. Yeah, it's according to a study in the Archive of Sexual Behavior. I don't read that book because it has way too many pictures, but the finding mirrors a downward trend also seen in many other parts of the developed world, including the UK, Australia, Germany, and Japan. Although Japan's been suffering from this for a long time. Researchers from the Center for Sexual Health Promotion at Indiana University School of Public Health. I wonder what people look like who work there, right? Sexual health promotion? I mean, if somebody asked you, you were really hot, and they asked you, what do you do for a living? I work for sexual health promotion at Indiana University. Oh, well. No, Chuck 10A, I can't say that. This is a family program. I cannot say that on the air. It's funny, though. It is. It's funny. Something about Napoleon having a little cannon. Anyway, they made the discovery by comparing data collected in 2009 with data collected in 2018. There were participants at the National Survey of Sexual Health and Behavior, and it's an ongoing representative survey of adolescents aged 14 through 17 and adults aged 18 to 49. And it's focused on understanding sex in the United States. And the participants are asked about their sexual exploits as well as various demographic factors. That's what I think too, Rehab, that they don't look hot at all. That it's quite possible. Quite possible. Yeah, no, the real good-looking ones work in political science. Let's change the subject before I lose my composure here. So for the current analysis, the lead author, whose name is Dr. Debbie Herbenick, and her colleagues examined the responses of 4,155 individuals. That's a pretty good sampling size, by the way. That's a pretty good size. I would say that the confidence interval is quite high on this. That was in 2009, and 4,547 individuals from 2018. And they focused on how often they reported having penile vaginal intercourse. And the researchers also probed the frequency of other sexual behaviors like autoeroticism. And that's a multiple syllable word which means something else. They found that while 24% of adults reported not having penile vaginal intercourse over the prior year in 2009, a whopping 30% of adults reported not having intercourse over the prior year in 2018. That's a big jump. That's like a 20% jump. Adolescents were also increasingly abstinent. Yes, 79% reported not having sex over the previous 12 months in 2009, while nearly 90% reported not having sex over the previous 12 months in 2018. That's pretty crazy, isn't it? 90%. And the data, and I'm always curious about studies like this, and I'm going to interject my own personal analysis in this. The data also permitted the researchers to estimate how often the average American, 18 to 49, has sex each year. In 2009, it was about 63 times a year. 2018, it was about 47 times a year. If you think about it, there's 52 weeks, so that's less than once a week, right? In the 50 and up, the number of times dropped dramatically to less than 10 times per year. Yeah, and 50 is the new 40. I hate to tell you this. Both adolescents and adults also reported fewer instances of foreplay. We're not talking about penile vaginal intercourse. We're talking about petting. We're talking about, the back seat. Foreplay in 2018 compared to 2009. What do you think? Well, it totally surprised researchers. Totally surprised them. And because, look at fashion. Look at clothing. Look at sexualizing people younger and younger. Look at the promiscuity in public TV, right? You would think, we're making people, more and more, it's okay, to do this in public, maybe even. Well, not in public, but close to in public. That it will go the opposite way. And that is just sex for fun, right? Rather than propagation. They hypothesized that any decrease in penile vaginal sex will be offset by an increase in other sexual activities. But guess what? Not so. It simply seems that Americans are having less sex and less sexual contact. Now, just so we know the facts, the big question is why? Oh, you're going to love this. You're going to love it. Just like any late night talk radio program where they talk about, sex. People call in and say, yeah, me and my girlfriend, we were like, okay, Adam Carolla used to have a program like this down in Atlanta. I used to listen to when I got off second shift. What could explain this drought of sexual activity? What do you think? What are your ideas in the chat? Beer is too expensive now? Okay, well, whatever. And that could be it too. People are maybe drinking less. Could be. The researchers put forth a number of hypotheses. They note that compared to 2009, well, for one thing, I think the music was better. But compared to 2009, adolescents and younger adults are drinking less alcohol. It's true. And they spend more time on social media. And they play more video games. And that's pretty much true because in 2009, it was a cell phone. In 2012, it became a smartphone. In 2016, the smartphone was replacing landlines 85%. Well, by 2018, baby, it was all over. I mean, people look down at their cell phones more than they look up the skirt. Yeah, it's true. Did you see that girl? No, what? I'm looking at TikTok. I didn't see it. What? Oh, no. You think you just know. You just think you know. That's not it. Nope. They're watching TikTok. And they're learning to fear the opposite sex. Oh yeah, fear. And without alcohol, people just do not try things that scare them. They're less likely to be in a romantic relationship because of 4 reasons. This is my analysis. You can go with it or not go with it. Here's my 4 reasons. They're less likely to be in a romantic relationship because hot girls make too much money on OnlyFans to mess with guys who won't pay to look at them. Even average girls can make $7,000 a month online without ever risking disease or pregnancy or a nasty breakup. Guys are such predictable slobs, after all. Number 2, hot guys are usually gay, or they're bisexual, or they're married, or they're divorced with kids. Am I wrong? I'm not wrong. When girls do go to bars, and they do, they go in groups, and they act like lugs. And guys simply are not interested in lugs. What is lug? Lug is a college term. It means lesbian until graduation. That's how you stay out of relationships with boys. You don't get VD, you don't get pregnant, you don't have fights, you don't get raped. Lesbian until graduation. That's how they go to bars. They go to bars 6, 7, 8 girls at a time. Poof, they all sit at one table and do shots. Guys are not welcome. It is possible that respondents may have been more prone to exaggerate their sexual habits in 2009 and less likely now. My analysis, bullshit. When pressed, nearly 100% will be honest about their lack of sex. 90% of people under 30 in long-term relationships have sex 4 times a month or less. Women do not regain their sex drives until they leave their first husband, are divorced, or not divorced. Once they hit menopause, they are lucky to ever have sex again in their entire lives. The vast majority of men revert to autoeroticism at a young age and stay active their entire lives. Those that deny it are lying. Motorcycles, dogs, sports cars, and trucks are suitable replacements for female companionship. The median age of America, with the exception of the illegal alien population, has crept up to match that of post-World War II. It means We are dying. Social energy has changed. Women are trained to be disgusted by men. Men are trained to mistrust women. Wall Street has had a system-wide moratorium on hiring women since the Pound Me Too movement. News actors aside, sex does not sell in business. Beautiful women are the most discriminated against class of humans in America. You don't believe me? You ask one. You ask a beautiful woman, when's the last time she really had a job that she was excited about, that gave her progress, gave her the ability to grow, or appreciated her for her intellect and her talents? Go ahead, ask them. Not going to happen. Beautiful women are the most discriminated against class of humans in America. Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, you name it. It's true. It's true. Any factory you want to go to, any office building you want to go to, the only place where I've seen that law slightly on its edge is the bank. The bank teller girls. The bank teller girls. That's the face of the bank. That's the face of the bank. Doesn't apply to men and waitresses. Okay, waitresses. Certain restaurants have the ability to hire waitresses of 8 or higher. It's true. But are these women really appreciated for their intellect, for their ability to do math, their ability to handle complex problems or business? No, they're not. They're hired for their skirt. They're hired for their legs, hired for their beautiful face, because it brings the men in who buy. I'm just saying, that's where the discrimination shows up. Yes, lots of women watch this show, Andres, absolutely, and they agree with me. Yes, I have the demographic. It's 55-45. 55% female, 45% male. No, that's not my avatar. They're not young, hot guys. No. My demographic is 40 years and up. There are some young people that listen because they like the complex subjects that we speak about, especially the economic science and science. But that's my avatar. Those are my people. Which, by the way, I need to do a quick ad. I don't mean to do it, but I have to do it. Next Saturday is my manifestation masterclass. It takes place next Saturday and the following Saturday at noon Eastern Time. It's $47. It's the best $47 you're going to spend on yourself. You want to kick this new year off, kick it off with a massive jump in empowerment to be able to manifest greatness in your life and achieve your dreams. And if you've lost your dream, that's okay too. We can help you find that. It's 2.5 hours on Saturday. You get an autographed copy of the book, and it is live lecture. It is not recorded. I will record it, but this session is live between you and me. And then next Saturday, a week from this next Saturday, will be a class in master journaling. So we will teach you how to keep a professional journal so that you can put those dreams and goals in writing and make them happen. So $47, I decided to make it the price of a movie and popcorn instead of a condo payment because I figured I'd make up for it in volume. I created the webinar about a year ago because the made-for-TV virus shut down the entire lecture circuit, which, by the way, is not recovered yet. I am not booked even one place for 2022. I made 3 appearances in 2021, and I don't even know if anybody's doing live events in 2022. People just don't have the money. You know, it takes about $20,000, $25,000 to put on a live event. You don't have the money, it ain't going to happen. People save up their own money and put these things on, and we go, and I bring my audience with me, and so do the other speakers. And they usually make money, but you got to have the money to make it happen. If you don't have the money, it's not going to happen. And people are broke. It's just not going to happen. So I created this as a webinar because I wanted people to have the information. I wanted them to have access to the ability that I have to put this message in a clear, concise manner so it makes sense to you. So come next Saturday. You can buy tickets all the way up to about 11:30 because I want the audience to be as large as I can get it, but it's okay if we have, less than half a dozen people. That's fine too. All right, I want to talk a little bit about the Polish resistance. Yes, Baba Susie, she's right. Intelligent women gather here. Manifest classes have you reset your dreams and goals and appreciate your life your way. Yeah. That's what it's about. Remembering the future, the physics of the soul and time travel. All right. I want to talk about the Polish resistance because I'm enamored with it. I've read books on it. They're so amazing, the Polish resistance. Such power in these people, and they are really great patriots, Poland first. Let me see. I'm going to go ahead and turn the scratch-offs on at Foxhole because we love our Foxhole people. And that way they can rack up some gold pills. That is the cryptocurrency at Foxhole. And what is it? Oh, Chili Girl. That's an interesting spelling. And Sherry Pittsburgh and J-Rogue. Good to see you out there. He says, I think he's right, but I think I'm biased. Yeah, that's okay to be biased. I understand. And let's go ahead and take care of our D-Live people really quick while we're getting ready to talk about the Polish resistance. Really, the when you think about the people that they resisted, the Vichy and the Nazis, and now they're resisting the Global Syndicate as they're trying to invade their country and break their fences down. And I recall that they really loved President Trump. It's Poland first. Make Poland great again. They're great people. We really enjoy them. Okay, we're sending a couple hundred lemons out there, lemons of the cryptocurrency in dlive.tv. And we haven't really had to say goodbye to YouTube tonight. We'll see what they do with my ads. But we haven't really talked about anything controversial. But I think I may have to say goodbye to them now because we're getting ready to talk about the war with the Global Syndicate. And I think it's going to be maybe a little too sensitive for the YouTube community. So let's see. Old Dog cleaned up again, 49.2. Flawless in USA, 28.6. Big D, 1955.21. JDeb, 16.8. That's a new name. And Mad Hat 1, 14.3. Oh, so glad to see you out there. We love our DLive.tv. They do a fantastic job. No, it's not Polish sausage resistance. That's not it. Not Polish jokes either. I once told a Polish joke to a pair of twins, nice-looking girls. It was a Polish joke, and then they revealed that they were Polish. I felt so bad. I didn't feel bad, but I did feel bad because I didn't know, and it was an ethnic joke. But in those days, it was okay to make fun of Polish people, but I don't anymore. Because I've recently had several customers that have reached out to me from Poland. They are isolated, they don't have a seaport. And they have been the drive-over country for every war in Europe for more than 1,000 years. They are tough, they're smart, and they're very hard-working people. Of late, they have been a thorn in the side of the European Union and thus of the Global Syndicate. Their resistance against tyranny is absolutely legendary. Their love for President Donald Trump is also legendary. And now they are under attack. The socialists in both Europe and America have one thing in common. They want everything. They are selling their newest master plan to own the world through a social justice message. Everyone is good. All criminals can be reintegrated. All borders are bad. And every multicultural melting pot is enriching, right? But there's a problem. It is all a Luciferian lie. Not all cultures are equal. There are demons born in the flesh. They are deceptive, and they're greedy, and they're ruthless, and they are actually sexually aroused when their victims bleed or gasp for air before they die. Which is why we need locks on our cars and our houses, why we need passwords on our bank accounts, and border controls around our lands. The Global Syndicate is telling the masked people that the unmasked people are trying to kill them. They repeat the mantra that the only threat to their brave new world is capitalism and my diesel-powered truck. Truth is that there are, for example, a lot of guys who wake up every day intent on killing as many Westerners as they can. And they want to kill him in New York, and they want to kill him in Madrid, and they want to kill him in Paris, or this past Sunday in Liverpool, right? Islam is an entire religion founded on death and the enslavement of women and the consumption of children. It is a raging fever that drives them from sleep and urges them to kill infidels or one another, if none can be found, by any means necessary. The Syndicate has been at war with Poland for decades, but intensified the effort after they openly rallied for President Trump and expressed their dislike for Hillary Clinton. This intensification used a tried and true method of invading and destroying European lands that defied the Syndicate's monarchies. They forced the migration of thousands of soldiers from Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, and Africa to the Belarus-Poland border. The fake Dream News want you to believe this plan was laid out by Vladimir Putin and President of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, acting as the Islamist travel agency. Through chain messages on WhatsApp and social networks, these migrants have been lured to their current situation under the promise that they will be able to enter the European Union, and even in some cases that they will find a job there, which is the same message they are being sent about the southern U.S. border. In Spain, where Muslim youth unemployment is at 42%, and the government is telling the Spanish people that they are going to spend all their cash reserves to stop global warming. So in essence, it is the Syndicate's message that carbon is the reason why Muslims are crashing their freezing bodies against the Polish border fence. That's it. Poland has reacted by condemning the attack and has closed off and militarized its border. And they're not ready for an Islamic invasion. The umpteenth, by the way, orchestrated by the Global Syndicate since the 6th century and tolerated by a cowardly European Union. The Syndicate's think tanks who write the news, they're not totally stupid, you know. No one is surprised that Lukashenko should try for revenge against the EU over the sanctions received for his fraudulent electoral process. It's not surprising that Putin can be seen behind a new operation to destabilize the continent, except that Russia is actually, as I said, a gas station posing as a country. I mean, Europe is his biggest customer. Why would he try to destabilize his biggest customer? Russia's getting richer by the hour off Biden inflation. What is absolutely insane here is the attitude in Brussels, the Global Syndicate's public attitude. The bureaucrats in Europe, in the social democracy, are falling between two stools. On the one hand, their policy is Agenda 2030, right? Multiculturalism, the dissolution of old Europe's identity, anything that erases its Christian heritage, right? Starting with Muslim immigration. But on the other hand, none of the member countries of the European Union in full post-pandemic crisis fancies taking on another invasion from immigrants right now. They don't want to do it. So they're offering, timid support for the firm attitude of the Poles blocking off their border. They're so timid, however, that even at mainstream conservative party rallies, they are impossible to hear on stage, although they are often heard and seen in the audience. A sign here, a chant there. Only one country in Europe has offered Poland military assistance to repel the aggression. You want to know who that is? It's Great Britain. I mean, that's all you got to have, but still, it's Great Britain. They already told the syndicate to stick their socialist union up their ass, right? Reportedly, in the fake stream news, remember, we're the mainstream news here. We are the news because we control that small little screen. It's us. No, there's no leader. We don't have any commander. We are a decentralized voice of patriotism. The EU is considering sanctioning airlines and travel agencies involved in the transport of people to Belarus with the intention of crossing into Poland. But I can guarantee you, Earth Explorers, this is just virtue signaling. It doesn't mean a damn thing. Sanctioning airlines for the intentions of the passengers is about as stupid as it is complicated to execute. And what Poland needs is a unanimous response from the European Union defending their doorstep. Yeah, and ours also, by the way. But good luck with that. Virtual Joe and his gang of criminals is at war with the border states. Texas, right? Arizona, California, right? Just like the syndicate is with Poland and anyone else who dares to defy their agenda. Poland's stance is very brave and is very risky. It's brave because they are standing all by themselves. It's risky because Lukashenko, he is itching for war. And he's threatening it daily. He's armed response to make the Poles move. He wants them out of the way. Poland's reaction has been to send in tanks. And Putin, who is very much like that lady who can be spotted at every family wedding, but nobody knows who she is or who invited her, right? He's sent several bombers to the region, in case the dance starts. He didn't want to be left out. Poland is very financially strong, but it cannot match the Russian army. If Russia invades, the real world war begins. And Putin's no dummy. He's peacocking, but he's no dummy. And then there's the context. Think about this. Very complex socioeconomic points to be made here. Less than a month ago, the EU Court of Justice, you know who they are, right? They're like the Department of Justice, only more corrupt. The EU Court of Justice decided to fine Poland. Yeah, they issued a fine against them. 1 million euros a day. You know why? Because the Poles refused to dissolve the newly created disciplinary chamber of their Supreme Court, as ordered by the European Commission, on the grounds that, get this, it infringes on their judicial independence. Now, regardless of the merits of the dispute, Poland refused to comply with the European legal mandate that collided with its own Supreme Court. Considering that this meant, kind of de facto, the renunciation of its sovereignty. I don't think they will pay a penny of that fine. The law is king, and Polish law is for Polish people, not European Union law. The EU has been at war with Poland for months because it considers its government incompatible with European values. But we need to clarify something here. When Ursula von der Leyen, president of the European Commission, speaks of, European values, whatever the hell that means, European values, she's not referring to like the old Europe, of Christian humanism, but she's referring to those of the Global Syndicate in Brussels, who wrote the Agenda 2030. Climate change is the new enemy. The destruction of the family unit is the methodology. And the promotion of Islam is the ground game to match the bioweapons making zombies out of half the world. In other words, and to be a little clearer about this, what really pissed the syndicate off was Poland proclaiming themselves an LGTB ideology-free zone with the support of the government. Poland resisted even further by banning abortion in the case of fetal malformation, which represents the vast majority of the cases, by the way. By the way, malformation is determined by the syndicate, by their medical think tanks. Can you say eugenics? Malformation. Poland and Hungary are the only two EU countries that have dared to stand up to big tech, creating a law that defends users against ideological censorship on platforms such as Facebook and Twitter. And at the end of the day, Poland is doing everything the syndicate hates. And that's why it's risky. That's why it's courageous. This border crisis is much more than a migration problem. In fact, it's comical that the pro-greenie press considers this an emergency and a refugee crisis. It's going to get that way because it's getting pretty damn cold. But there's no emergency except the one Putin wants to provoke. He hates the syndicate. And there is no refugee crisis because these immigrants have not come fleeing war, but have been attracted by a wonderful and non-existent job opportunity. That sound familiar? Poland is resisting in the midst of a growing national fervor. Call it a Poland first agenda. Call it a make Poland great again agenda. There are nearly 2 billion people on the planet that love President Trump and consider him the true world leader. There's only one nation defending its sovereignty with pride, defending its culture, and willing to fight for the things that once, centuries ago, made old Europe great. Long live the Polish people. Because if Poland falls, if Poland gives in to the global media empire's marketing plan and the multicultural nonsense of the left, the whole West will follow, from Brussels, Madrid, Rome, to Washington. They will have won the most important battle of our century without shooting a single bullet, or for that matter, taking one. God is sitting this one out, Earth explorers. Hold the line, Poland. 200 million Americans are with you. But it isn't going to be easy. No. Lukashenko, he's a former Soviet farm boss. He's been in control of Belarus since 1994. He's seen his leadership thrown into doubt after mass protests were held throughout the country following last year's fake election, which was widely believed to be rigged. The struggles for the communist-style dictator have only mounted, with his regime suffering under painful sanctions from the European Union, which were imposed after a flight carrying a dissident journalist was forced to land in Belarus by a MiG-29 fighter jet earlier this year. more sanctions from the EU are expected to be implemented against Belarusian companies next month in response to the migrant crisis, which is believed to have been manufactured by the Lukashenko regime to blackmail the political bloc. In an exclusive interview with Breitbart London, actually, Lithuanian MP, his name is Dovile Sakalaine, said that while the crisis at the Polish border has garnered more international attention, because we're talking about it here on America Free Radio, are we not? The Lukashenko regime continues to put pressure on Lithuania by attempting to push migrants across the EU member state and NATO allies' border. Now, Sakaliene said that the Belarusian military and border officials employ different tactics on the Lithuanian border, making multiple smaller groups of 5 to 7 migrants at different, taking 5 to 7 migrants at different locations on the border simultaneously in order to exhaust the Lithuanian forces. These aren't really the tactics of an attack, okay? They're more the tactics of a siege. You know what a siege is? A siege is where you sit back, 1,000 feet out of the range of the arrows and you lob, fireballs over the castle wall and prevent them from getting any food or water into their castle until you wear them out. So, but I don't think you're going to wear Poland out because they're kind of self-sufficient. Belarus is conducting a hybrid attack where people are smuggled into the country, imported like objects. So we are protecting the borders of NATO and the EU from the unpredictable, very hostile dictator who has instrumentalized migration as a means of political war. Exactly the same thing we're seeing on our southern border. Of course, nobody wants these migrants to get cold. They don't want them to freeze to death, which they most definitely will do next month. But we understand that, unfortunately, Mr. Lukashenko is still fully controlling the stream of migrants, shipping them to the border and throwing them at us like live, burning hay bales. Now, we may not look that intimidating, but we are persistent and we have fully informed the migrants that they cannot cross. We cannot take anymore. It's simply impossible. Not going to happen. Over the past month, violent altercations have been seen at the border. Of course, they're well produced when the Poles use water cannons to push the migrants back and all that. Oh, it's terrible to humanity. Couldn't you imagine us using water cannons in El Paso? Or yeah, exactly. Holy crap, it would be every camera in the world would be down there filming it. The Lithuanian MP said that there need to be more strict and focused international sanctions imposed on Lukashenko's inner circle, as well as businesses that have been instrumental in implementing the human smuggling. Honestly, I don't think that's going to work. It's a lot of political dancing. And when you're desperate and you're holding on to power, that kind of dancing doesn't mean much. So Sakalaine went on to say that there are serious grounds for triggering Article 4 of the NATO Convention. Oh no, not the dreaded Article 4. It states that parties will consult together whenever, in the opinion of any of them, the territorial integrity, political independence, or security of any parties is threatened. Like they care about Poland. They don't. Article 4 is not going to work for Poland. They're not considered. And currently, and you got to understand that Poland, although being a sovereign country, was once a Soviet state, right? And Latvia and Lithuania and the other Baltic states, they're in talks surrounding the possible triggering of the article. But, it's only been done 4 times in history. And it's only one step away from the possibility of armed conflict if Article 5 is invoked. But against whom? For what? The defender always wins. Sakaliene said that it would be crucial for all states to agree to such an act in order to represent the full weight of the situation. These people don't really have armies. Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, when they became their own independent states, in 1999, they went to the New York Stock Exchange. They got money to develop their mines and their forests and their heavy industries. They are business people. They're doing business. They rely on NATO to protect them, but they're not particularly strong, political powers. It would be different. Like, Arizona's being invaded, Texas is being invaded, California is being invaded. But is the federal government there to defend them? No. Even if all those states came together and went to Washington and said, help, you have to send troops down here, you think they would? No. They're not going to do that. Neither is the EU going to send tanks and planes and troops to defend the borders of these small states. Not going to happen. Now, if it was Amsterdam or if it was the Netherlands, then maybe they would defend their lands because they own a lot of that property. But not these former Soviet states. It's going to be something to watch over the next 90 days. I'll try to keep you posted. Like I said, we don't do politics, but everything is politics these days, right? Your job is politics. Your relationship with your partners or your suppliers, it's politics. If you say you don't do politics, then you are sitting on the sidelines of life, because politics is just the machine of religion. It's the machine of commerce. So you get mad because it's politics. It just basically means you don't like anybody to disagree with you. And that's not the way life is. Life is about talking out problems and coming to agreement on things. It doesn't mean we constantly compromise. We constantly look the other way. We constantly, give ground in order to have the peace. That's not what politics is about at all. It's about making your case. It's about backing up your position with precedent and with rhetoric. Rhetoric is sort of like salesmanship. If you don't do that, you're not gonna survive. And speaking of surviving, we have talked to you a little bit about the alphabet people from time to time. Yes, AB is on YouTube. We've allowed YouTube to stay up until this point. We're soon going to say bye-bye to YouTube because we're getting ready to get into an area that the YouTube people Google likes to censor us. So we're not going to allow them to do that. We're going to say goodbye to them. But AB says the Polish people were denied JSF planes by the U.S. government. Ever wonder why? Well, yes, because it was considered provocative. We also talked about moving strategic missiles into Poland. And you recall what happened when the EU started to move some of its tanks and some of its rocket launchers close to the Polish border. You know exactly what happened. Putin said, move those back away from that border or we will nuke you. We will destroy you. That is provocative because once you have your missiles at that point, you can easily reach Moscow, and that we're not going to allow. So that's why. Those jets were not put there. The same reason we don't put jets in Ukraine. Because that would be considered provocative, and that's why. It doesn't mean that we're not their ally. And I don't think that Virtual Joe and his gang of criminals are involved on the global scene in that way. That is to say, if Lukashenko were to take his tanks and push through the fence and, spearhead these migrants to pour across the border into Poland, invade it, as it were, like human shields, I don't think anybody would stop it. I think they'd have to rely on the Polish people to stop it, and then it would be like photo op city. If those pictures ever got out, Poland would be everyone's enemy. If the EU goes in there and tries to stop Lukashenko with force, that is going to be seen as provocative as well. That's why Putin's bombers are there. Yes, I'm still live on YouTube at this moment, Mark, but I am going to say bye-bye to them in about 3 minutes. So hang out on DLive. Okay, good. Feel them good vibes, says I'm here and on DLive. So everybody's ready to make this transition. The EU is not going to be seen as moving in there because that's going to be direct conflict with Putin. That's why his bombers are there. He's at the dance but not invited to the dance. The American military is so politicized right now. They're more concentrating on how many generals can dye their hair pink, and I can't really say any more about it on YouTube. I could just tell you the American military thinks that climate change is the enemy and not to stabilize the European community. DLive keeps cutting out. Really? I am so disappointed. Well, you can always go to Twitch, or you can go to, it looks like Foxhole's pretty snapping right along too. No, I think they're a little bit behind. Let's see if we can speed them up here. Yeah, I think they're catching up. Yep, that's the same feed. So anyway, we're going to have to say goodbye to YouTube right now because we're going to get into a free speech zone. So all you people that are listening on YouTube right now, and if you're listening to this as an archive, it's no big deal, easy to do. Look right there. Look, see, right? Yeah. See, my finger's kind of behind the Truth Frequency Radio sign there, but right there in where it says see more. Yeah, that part right there. The description in the YouTube information. There are links to other free speech platforms. And if you click on any one of them, you're going to go right to me. If you're at my website, which is americafreeradio.com, just click on one of the icons at the bottom other than YouTube, because we're going to have to say goodbye to YouTube right now. I hate to do it. We love our YouTube followers. We love our YouTube subscribers. But as I told you, Google routinely violates our civil rights, and we're just not going to allow that anymore here at America Free Radio. So long, YouTube, and